Hey y'all, I'm getting ready to run a little bit of PopUp Fertilizer to my strawberries over here, and we're not giving them a whole lot. I don't want to get carried away and end up with like 8 or 10 crowns on a plant in January. The reason that's bad is because it's overproducing, so you don't want to feed them too much too early, because the problem that you run into, it sounds like it'd be great to have 10 crowns a plant, but the problem with that is you end up with like 100 strawberries per plant that are this big. So we don't want that. We want great big strawberries, and we want a good solid pound and a quarter of fruit per plant. And part of that is getting them off to a really good start. So I do put down a lot of pre-plant fertilizer, but it's not always as available as we'd like for it to be, and it's not always available when we want it to be available, if that makes sense. What this is basically what we call a pop-up fertilizer. It's 12-48-8, so it's not a lot of nitrogen, not a lot of potassium, a whole lot of phosphorus. The phosphorus is kind of what helps a plant get started. It's also one of the nutrients that's likely to be locked up because of pH or other factors. So we're not going to give them a lot because, like I say, we don't want to get carried away and get them in too high of a gear too early. But we are going to put out 50 pounds per acre. So I got 4 bags of this stuff. It's 25-pound bags. This stuff's a little bit spendy, but I'm trying to kind of pull out all the stops. Strawberries is a crop you can afford to spend a little more on inputs because the yield is so sensitive. You can easily go from a great yield to picking very little with a few small mistakes. And I don't know that it works quite that way in the other direction, but every little bit helps. And I have said it on here before, I'll say it again. I like for strawberry plants, in my opinion, on my farm, in my area, the best yields come from plants that at my birthday, the middle of December, I can barely put my hand between them on the plastic. Our spacing on our strawberry plants is 14 inches by 14 inches, a little bit wider than some people plant them, but I want to be able to just barely fit my hand between the leaves. The plants in the wintertime, they lay kind of flat on the plastic. They're not standing up perky. So that would mean that we have about a 12-inch diameter plant in the middle of December. In my experience, I have had the best yields by far when the plants were pie pan sized, almost touching on the plastic in the middle of December. And that's for the Piedmont of North Carolina. So different strawberry growing areas are different, but that's my goal, is to pump these babies up, get them in gear, light a fire under them, and kind of just push them along, give them a little extra nudge to get started and established really good here in the fall. We are about, we're 10 or 12 days after we planted them. It took us a few days to get them planted, but the reason I wanted to wait to apply this is when you transplant them, you have what's called transplant shock, and the plant's kind of freaking out and don't know what to do. Give it a little bit of time, it starts putting out those root fibers, and we're there now. You can grab a plant and gently tug on it, and it's established. It's put down some roots into the soil. So that means that it's really gonna be able to take advantage of this. So I'm gonna run this just like I always run everything, right through the drip system. I'll show you how it works. I have had quite a few issues in the past with these Mozzie injectors stopping up, and I'm sure this is not like manufacturer recommended. But if you take this part right here off, there's a little rubber gasket and a ball and a spring that sits in here. The purpose of that is so that when you have, like when you're in the process of turning it on, you turn one of these on, it doesn't back feed. Well, I had a lot of problems with them stopping up, and that seemed to be one of the points that it was constantly stopping up at. So I took the ball and spring out, and I've done this with a couple of different Mozzies now. But you'll notice right here, I've got my little flow gauge, and we're running about 12-ish gallons per hour. Well, I can turn this if I have a problem, if it gets stopped up or it acts like it might be stopped up or it's not running like it should, then I can reach over here and turn this off, and you'll notice the only problem you'll have with doing this is sometimes it'll shoot the ball to the bottom and it doesn't want to come back loose. But it's a really handy way by doing it, taking that ball out. If your Mozzie gets stopped up, you cut that valve off, you hear it click, and you saw it line get clear, and now it's getting green again. So it back flushes and blows the junk out of the system. Cut it back on, and you're good to go siphoning again. It's always good policy, in my opinion, to walk your field parameters right after you start water, but especially if you're running fertilizer chemicals, because stuff happens. People step on fittings, animals chew on the end of the drip tape where it's sticking out of the end of the row. Stuff happens, and if you got 1 5/8 drip line blowed off in 2-acre field, I would venture to say that 75% of whatever you're trying to run is going to go out that stream of water. Virtually none of it's going to get where you intended for it to go. And it don't take but 10 minutes. I'm out of shape, but I can walk around a 2-acre field in 5 or 10 minutes, even if I have to fix something. And if what you're running costs you $75 an acre, well, that's $150 that you saved. Y'all might, but I don't usually make $150 in 10 minutes. So that's one way of looking at it. Alright, so it's day 2 here of running this pop-up fertilizer to these strawberries. This shouldn't be quite such a long drawn out process, but I got to pump my big fuel tank pump. The carburetor got stopped up on it, so I had to put a backup in place. It's got that tiny little Predator pump, Predator tank on it, so limited on run time. And I've just about found the max on my 2-inch irrigation line with the Predator pump down there. It's not getting, it's perfectly fine for irrigation, so it's getting enough water up here to water this 2-acre field, no problem. And I could hook into this 4-inch line, but I really don't want to go through that trouble at the moment. I've got another pump that we're in the process of working on, but anyway, I got enough water coming from the Predator and these little 2-inch sand filters to water this entire strawberry field behind me, no problem. Where the problem comes in is when I start dialing the pressure down to run the fertilizer with the Mozzie, then I get down to so little pressure that I don't have enough water to water all the rows. But I do have shutoffs on every row, you can see right here. So my solution to that problem was to cut off half the field and inject half the fertilizer, and then now I'm going to do the other half. And I don't know that we're going to see a difference in one day, 24 hours, but I am curious to go down here to the dividing line between where I split the field and see plants that got fertilized yesterday versus plants that did not. So right here, this is off. This is leaking. This one's off. This one's on. So, left-hand side of the sprinklers got the pop-up fertilized yesterday. Right-hand side is fixing to get it. And not sure there is one iota of difference at the moment, but I wouldn't really expect there to be after 24 hours. But I was curious to look before I started turning rows off. So I'm gonna turn the other half of the field on and turn the half that was on yesterday off. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see y'all on the next one. Y'all hang in there and tune in next week, or we're probably going to be working on a greenhouse, trying to get this next greenhouse put together and get some cover on it. Got some baseboards to put on. We got some new and different stuff that we're going to put on this one that we've never done before. I'm pretty stoked. We got the power company coming out hopefully sometime in the next week. No, I'm sorry. We got the power company coming out sometime hopefully in the next month to set a new pole, put us a transformer up, and we're going to have power over here for these greenhouses. And we've still got our little one that's got to be moved yet. So a bunch going on, and a bunch of good content that's going to be coming your way. Well, maybe not good content, but there's going to be a bunch more content coming your way. Appreciate you watching as always, and I'll see you next time.